The Colorado sun beat down on Fort Carson like a hammer on an anvil. Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves stood at attention outside the briefing room, her boots polished to a mirror shine, her uniform crisp despite the heat. She'd been waiting for this assignment for 3 years. 3 years of proving herself. 3 years of being the best sharpshooter in her unit. 3 years of hearing the same words over and over. You're good, Reeves, but today was different. Today she was being assigned to an elite protection detail, high-value target extraction, real combat zone work. The kind of mission that made careers or ended them. The door opened. Captain Dennis Holt stepped out first, 6'3", barrel-chested, 20 years in special operations. His face was all hard angles and old scars. He looked at Maya the way a man looks at a stain on his shirt. You're Reeves? His voice was gravel and doubt. Yes, sir. Maya didn't blink. You're the sharpshooter they sent me? I am, sir. Holt's jaw tightened. He glanced back at the colonel inside the briefing room, then back at Maya. His eyes traveled from her face to her boots and back again, measuring, judging, finding her lacking. How much do you weigh, Reeves? Maya felt the heat rise in her chest but kept her voice level. 130, sir. 130, he said it like a curse. I asked for an operator. They sent me a... He stopped himself. Barely. This is a tactical extraction in hostile territory. I need someone who can carry their own weight, literally. I can, sir. Can you carry mine? He stepped closer. Can you drag a 200-pound man out of a hot zone while taking fire? Can you hold a defensive position for 6 hours in 100-degree heat? Can you make a kill shot at 800 meters with wind and dust and chaos all around you? Maya met his eyes. They were cold, blue, completely certain she would fail. Yes, sir. I can, Holt snorted. We'll see. He walked past her without another word. The colonel appeared in the doorway, his expression apologetic but firm. Reeves, you're assigned to Captain Holt's unit for a 6-week deployment. You leave in 72 hours, dismissed. Maya saluted. The colonel returned it and lowered his voice. Don't let Holt rattle you. He's old school. He doesn't trust anyone until they've bled beside him. Show him what you're made of. Yes, sir. But as Maya walked back to her barracks, she felt the weight of those eyes on her back. Holt's eyes, full of doubt, full of judgment, full of the same prejudice she'd been fighting her entire career. She'd heard it all before. Too small, too soft, too female. But she'd never let it stop her before, and she wouldn't start now. 72 hours later, Maya sat in the belly of a transport plane surrounded by Holt's team. There were 5 men total. All of them looked like they'd been carved out of stone. All of them looked at her like she was made of glass. Holt sat across from her, arms crossed, eyes closed. But she knew he wasn't sleeping. He was listening, judging, waiting for her to make a mistake. The soldier next to her, Corporal Hayes, leaned over and shouted above the engine noise. You ever been in country before? Maya nodded. 2 tours. Iraq and Syria. Hayes looked surprised. Combat. Forward operating base security. Convoy protection. Some direct action. Any kills? Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to prove herself to Hayes. Only to the man sitting across from her with his eyes closed and his mind already made up. The plane shuddered. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. 10 minutes to drop zone. Check your gear. Everyone moved at once. Maya ran through her checklist with practiced efficiency. Rifle, sidearm, ammunition, medical kit, radio, water. She was carrying 70 pounds of gear. It felt like nothing. When she looked up, Holt was watching her. You forget anything, Reeves? No, sir. You sure? Because out there, forgetting something gets you killed. Or worse, gets someone else killed. I'm sure. Sir? He stood and walked over to her, towering, intimidating. He grabbed her pack and lifted it. Light. It's regulation weight. Sir? I didn't ask if it was regulation. I said it's light. He dropped the pack. You carrying enough ammo? Yes, sir. Enough water? Yes, sir. Enough doubt? Maya blinked. Sir? Holt leaned down until his face was inches from hers. If you're not doubting yourself right now, you're a fool. This isn't a training exercise. This isn't a parade ground. This is real. And if you slow us down, if you hesitate, if you freeze, you won't just die. You'll get one of my men killed, and I won't forgive that. The other soldiers had gone quiet. Watching. Waiting. Maya didn't flinch. I won't slow you down, sir. You better not. The plane lurched. The red light turned green. Go, go, go. And just like that, Maya was out the door and falling through the night sky over Afghanistan. Her parachute snapping open above her, the ground rushing up to meet her. She hit hard, rolled, came up with her rifle ready. Around her, the rest of the team was landing. Holt touched down 30 meters away. He signaled with sharp, efficient hand movements. Form up, move out. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. Maya took her position at the rear, covering their six. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. This was it, the real test, and somewhere ahead in the darkness, Captain Dennis Holt was already convinced she was going to fail. But Maya Reeves hadn't come this far to let a man's doubt define her. She had come to prove him wrong, or die trying. The safe house was a crumbling compound 20 kilometers from the drop zone. Maya's legs burned from the march, but she didn't slow down. Didn't complain. Didn't give Holt a single reason to look back at her with that expression she'd already learned to hate. The expression that said, "I told you so." They breached the compound at dawn. It was supposed to be empty. Intelligence said the target, a captured CIA analyst named Peter Garvin, was being held in a militant camp 15 clicks north. The safe house was just a staging point, but intelligence was wrong. The first shot came from the second-floor window. Corporal Hayes went down hard, blood spreading across his shoulder. Maya moved on instinct. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. She dropped to one knee, raised her rifle, and put 2 rounds through the window in less than a second. The shooting stopped. Holt was dragging Hayes behind a wall. "Reeves, status." "Threat neutralized, sir." "You sure?" "Yes, sir." But Holt didn't take her word for it. He signaled to Martinez, one of his longtime operators. "Check it." Martinez moved up the stairs, weapon ready. A moment later, his voice came over the radio. "One hostile down. Clean shots. Center mass." Holt glanced at Maya. His expression didn't change. No approval. No acknowledgement. Just cold assessment. "Hayes, you good?" Hayes grunted through clenched teeth. "I'm good, sir. Through and through." Maya already had her medical kit out. "Let me see it." "I got it," Hayes said, waving her off. "Let me see it," Maya repeated, her voice firm but not unkind. Hayes looked at Holt. Holt gave a barely perceptible nod. Maya worked quickly. Cleaned the wound. Packed it, wrapped it, applied pressure. Hayes watched her hands move with practiced efficiency. "You a medic too?" "Combat Lifesaver certified," Maya said. "You're lucky." "Missed the bone. Missed the artery. You'll have a scar and a story." Hayes managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Reeves." But when Maya looked up, Holt was already walking away, talking into his radio. She hadn't earned anything from him. Not gratitude, not respect, nothing. Martinez approached her as she packed up her kit. "Nice shooting. Thanks. Don't take it personal," Martinez said quietly. The captain. He lost someone on a mission like this. 3 years ago. A new operator, young, inexperienced, froze up when it mattered. He paused. Holt had to leave him behind. Maya felt something tighten in her chest. "He died?" "Worse, captured, tortured. By the time we got him back." Martinez shook his head. "He's still in a VA hospital. Can't even remember his own name." Maya looked across the compound at Holt's broad back. Suddenly his doubt made a different kind of sense. It wasn't just prejudice. It was fear. Fear of watching another soldier break. Fear of carrying that guilt again. But that didn't make it right. And it didn't change what she had to do. They moved north toward the militant camp as the sun climbed higher. The heat became oppressive. 110 degrees. The kind of heat that made your brain feel like it was cooking in your skull. Holt set a brutal pace. Maya kept up, step for step, mile for mile, even when her shoulders screamed from the weight of her pack. Even when her throat felt like sandpaper. Even when she saw the way Holt kept looking back, waiting for her to fall behind. She didn't give him the satisfaction. By midday, they reached the overwatch position, a rocky hillside overlooking the militant camp. Holt called for a halt and pulled out his binoculars. "There," he pointed. "Southwest building. 2nd floor. That's where they're holding Garvin." Maya counted at least 20 hostiles moving through the compound below. Armed. Alert. This wasn't going to be easy. Holt began laying out the plan. "Martinez and Chen, you take the east approach. Hayes, you're on overwatch despite that shoulder. Reeves, he stopped, looked at her. She could see him thinking, calculating, deciding where to put her where she'd do the least damage. You're staying here. Radio watch. The words hit like a slap. Sir, I'm your best sharpshooter. You should be following orders, Holt cut her off. This is a precision operation. I need people I can trust, people I know won't freeze, people I've worked with before. You stay on the radio. You call in exfil when we have the package. That's it. Martinez shifted uncomfortably. Even Hayes looked away. Maya felt anger rising in her throat like bile. Sir, with respect, you want to help Reeves? Then do your job and stay out of the way. Holt's voice was final, dismissive. We move in 20 minutes. He walked away before she could respond. Maya stood there, her hands shaking, not from fear, from rage, from frustration, from the unfairness of it all. She'd made the shot that saved Hayes. She'd kept pace on a forced march that would have broken most soldiers. She'd done everything right, and it still wasn't enough. Martinez approached her cautiously. Reeves, don't! Maya's voice was tight. Just don't. She sat down hard on a rock and stared at the compound below, at the mission she was being excluded from, at the proof she was never going to be allowed to give. The minutes ticked by. Holt and his team geared up, checked weapons, reviewed the plan. Maya sat by the radio, invisible. Useless. Then Holt's voice crackled over the comms. Moving in. Reeves, you copy? Maya pressed the transmit button. Copy, sir. Keep this channel clear unless it's an emergency. Understood. She watched through her scope as the team moved down the hillside. Ghosts in the daylight. They moved well. Professional. Coordinated. They reached the compound perimeter, and then everything went wrong. The explosion was massive. A fireball that erupted from the eastern wall, right where Martinez and Chen were breaching. The blast wave rolled up the hillside like thunder. Maya's heart stopped. Contact! Contact! Holt's voice over the radio strained with urgency. It's a trap. Multiple hostiles. We're pinned down. Gunfire erupted. Dozens of weapons. Maya could see muzzle flashes from every direction. The militants had been waiting. They'd known the team was coming. Martinez is down. Chen is down. Hayes's voice panicked. Sir, we need to fall back. Negative, Holt shouted. Garvin is still in that building. We don't leave without him. But Maya could see what Holt couldn't from his position. More militants were moving in from the north. At least 15. Maybe 20. They were surrounding Holt's position. They were going to be overrun. Sir, Maya's voice on the radio, you have hostiles approaching from the north. You need to pull back now. Negative. We complete the mission. Sir, you're going to be surrounded. I gave you an order, Reeves. Keep this channel clear. Maya watched in horror as the militants closed in. Holt and Hayes were taking cover behind a low wall, returning fire, but they were outnumbered 5-1. Maybe worse, she could see it happening. Could see exactly how this was going to end. Holt was going to die down there. Stubborn, proud, convinced he was right, and Maya was supposed to just sit here and watch it happen. Stay on the radio. Stay out of the way. Follow orders. She looked at her rifle. Then at the compound. Then at the tiny figures of Holt and Hayes fighting for their lives. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to act, to do something, but if she disobeyed a direct order, her career was over. Court-martial, dishonorable discharge. Everything she'd worked for, gone. The gunfire intensified. She heard Holt grunt in pain over the radio. Sir, are you hit? I'm fine. Stay off this channel. But he wasn't fine. Maya could see the way he was. Moving, slower, favoring his left side. He was wounded and he was going to die unless she did. Something. Maya made her decision. In less than a second, she grabbed her rifle and started running down the hillside toward the compound. Toward certain death, or toward the moment that would change everything. Maya ran like her life depended on it, because it did, and so did Holt's. The hillside was steep and rocky. Every step threatened to twist an ankle or send her tumbling. But she didn't slow down. She'd calculated the angles in her head. She knew exactly where she needed to be. 200 meters from the compound, she dropped to the ground behind a cluster of boulders. Perfect cover. Perfect elevation. Perfect line of sight. She could see everything now. Holt and Hayes were trapped behind a crumbling wall. Blood stained Holt's left arm. Hayes was firing in controlled bursts, but his shoulder wound was slowing him down, and the militants were moving in from three sides. Tightening the noose, Maya steadied her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her heart rate slowed. Her hands became stone. She found her first target. A militant moving along the rooftop, flanking Holt's position. 800 meters. Wind from the east. Elevation advantage. She exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The militant dropped. She chambered another round. Found her second target. A fighter with an RPG setting up to destroy Holt's cover completely. Squeeze. Drop. Chamber. Third target. Fourth. Fifth. Each shot was perfect. Each one bought Holt and Hayes a few more seconds of life. Down in the compound, Holt's head snapped around. He'd noticed the militants falling. Noticed someone was providing overwatch. His voice crackled over the radio. Who's shooting? Hayes, is that you? Negative, sir. That's not me. Holt's voice rose. Reeves, is that you? Did you leave your position? Maya keyed her radio while tracking her sixth target. Yes, sir. I gave you a direct order. I know, sir, she fired. Another hostile down. But you're surrounded and you're wounded, and I'm the best shot in this unit. So right now I'm doing my job whether you like it or not. She could hear Holt's anger through the static, but she could also hear something else. Relief. There's too many of them, Reeves. I count 18 hostiles remaining. Maya interrupted, her voice calm. Clinical. Hayes, on my mark, you and the captain move to the building on your right, the one with the blue door. I'll clear your path. Reeves, you can't possibly... 3 hostiles in your path, watch. Maya fired 3 times in 4 seconds. 3 militants dropped like puppets with cut strings. Silence on the radio. Then Holt's voice, tight and controlled. Hayes, move, now, they ran. Maya covered them, her rifle speaking in steady, rhythmic shots. Every bullet found its target. Every target fell. Holt and Hayes crashed through the blue door and took cover inside. We're in, Holt reported. But we still need to reach Garvin. Southwest building across the courtyard. 50 meters of open ground. Maya scanned the courtyard. It was a kill zone. Anyone who tried to cross would be cut down in seconds. Give me 1 minute, she said. Reeves. 1 minute, sir. Trust me. She didn't wait for his answer. Maya shifted position, moving 30 meters to her left. New angle. New opportunities. She could see the windows where the militants were positioned. Could see the patterns of their movement. She started firing. But this time she wasn't going for kills. She was creating chaos. She put rounds through windows. Through doors. Through the walls themselves. The militants scattered, diving for cover, trying to figure out where the shots were coming from. Now, sir. Move now. Holt and Hayes burst from the building and sprinted across the courtyard. A militant appeared in a window, weapon rising. Maya's bullet found him before he could fire. Another fighter emerged from a doorway. Maya dropped him mid-step. Holt and Hayes reached the southwest building and kicked in the door. For 10 seconds, Maya heard nothing but her own heartbeat. Then Holt's voice. We have Garvin. He's alive, wounded but mobile. Copy that, Maya said. But you've got a problem. More hostiles are coming from the north. At least 20. Maybe more. You're going to be trapped in there. Recommendations? Maya felt something shift in her chest. He was asking for her input. Actually asking. The east wall is partially collapsed from the explosion, she said, thinking fast. If you can get Garvin through there, you can use the rubble as cover. I can suppress from here while you move to the extraction point. That's 200 meters of open ground, Reeves. I know, sir. You'll have to cover 3 men. Wounded men. Against at least 20 hostiles. I know, sir. A pause. Then can you do it? Maya thought about every doubt. Every dismissive look. Every time she'd been told she wasn't good enough. Strong enough. Tough enough. Yes, sir. I can do it. Then let's move. Holt emerged from the building with Hayes and Garvin. The CIA analyst was in bad shape. Beaten, malnourished, barely able to walk. Holt had him over his shoulder in a fireman's carry despite his own wound. They moved toward the collapsed wall, and the militants saw them. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Bullets kicked up dust around Holt's feet, around Hayes, around Garvin. Maya fired back. She'd never shot like this before. Not in training. Not in combat, not ever. She moved through targets like a machine. her mind calculating angles and distances faster than thought. Lead time, wind speed, target movement. She didn't miss a militant leaning around a corner. Down. 2 fighters on a rooftop. Down. Someone with a machine gun setting up position. Down before he could fire a single round. Her rifle became an extension of her will. Where she looked, death followed. Keep moving, she shouted into the radio. Don't stop. Holt stumbled. His wound was worse than he'd admitted. He went down on one knee, Garvin still on his shoulder. Sir. Hayes moved to help him. 3 militants saw their opportunity. They broke from cover, weapons up, moving in for the kill. Maya's first shot took the lead man in the chest. Her second caught the second man in the shoulder, spinning him around. Her third. The rifle clicked empty. No. Maya ejected the magazine with shaking hands, reached for a fresh one. But the third militant was already aiming at Holt, already squeezing the trigger. Time seemed to slow. Maya slammed the fresh magazine home, chambered around, raised the rifle, too slow. She was going to be too slow. The militant fired, but Hayes was faster. He threw himself in front of Holt, taking the rounds that were meant for his captain. He went down hard. No! Holt's voice was raw, broken. Maya's shot took the third militant between the eyes, but the damage was done. Down in the compound, Holt was hunched over Hayes. Even from 200 meters away, Maya could see the blood. So much blood, Reeves. Holt's voice was barely controlled. I need you to get down here, now. Sir, the hostiles, now, Reeves. Maya ran. She covered the distance in less than a minute, her legs pumping, her lungs burning. She slid into cover beside Holt and Hayes. Hayes was still alive, barely. 3 rounds in his chest. His breathing was wet and labored. I got it, Maya said, her hands already moving. Pressure on the wounds. Seal the chest. Stop the bleeding. But there was too much blood. Too many holes. Hayes looked up at her with glassy eyes. Did we get him? We got him, Maya said. Garvin's safe. You did it, Hayes. Hayes smiled. Then his eyes closed. Maya worked on him for another 30 seconds before she accepted what she already knew. He was gone. Holt sat back against the wall, his face gray with pain and grief and rage. Garvin lay unconscious beside him. And in the distance, Maya could hear vehicles approaching. More militants, reinforcements. They were still surrounded, still trapped, and now they were 1 man down. Holt looked at Maya with eyes that held no more doubt, no more judgment, only exhaustion. What do we do now, Reeves? And for the first time, Maya understood. He wasn't doubting her anymore, he was trusting her completely. She keyed her radio. Overwatch, this is ground team. We need emergency exfil at our position. 1 KIA, 2 wounded. 1 HVT secured, the radio crackled. Ground team, closest exfil is 3 kilometers northeast. Can you make it? Maya looked at Holt, at his wound, at Garvin's broken body, at the approaching vehicles 3 kilometers, through hostile territory with wounded men and enemy forces closing. In impossible, she met Holt's eyes. We'll make it, she said, and then she helped him to his feet, got Garvin over her shoulder despite her smaller frame, and started moving. Behind them, the militants were coming. Ahead of them, survival was just a possibility, but Maya Reeves had stopped caring about possible and impossible. She only cared about one thing now, getting her team home alive. 3 kilometers might as well have been 300. Maya had Garvin over her shoulder, all 160 pounds of him. Dead weight. Her legs shook with every step. Her spine felt like it was compressing, but she didn't slow down. Beside her, Holt was struggling. His left arm hung useless at his side, blood soaking through the makeshift bandage. His face was pale. Shock was setting in. Sir, let me see that arm. Keep moving, Reeves. You're losing too much blood. I said keep moving. Behind them, the sound of vehicles grew louder. The militants were hunting them, and they were closing in fast. Maya scanned the terrain ahead. Broken rocks, scattered brush, no real cover for at least a kilometer. If they got caught in the open, they were dead. There. She pointed to a dried riverbed cutting through the landscape. We can use that for concealment. Holt nodded, saving his breath. They half ran, half stumbled down the embankment. The riverbed offered some protection from sight, but it also limited their options. If the militants figured out where they were, they'd be trapped. Maya's radio crackled. Ground team, what's your position? She checked her GPS with one hand while supporting Garvin with the other. 2.4 kilometers from Exfil. But we've got hostiles pursuing. Multiple vehicles, copy that. Exfil bird is inbound. Eat to 12 minutes. Can you hold for 12 minutes? Maya looked at Holt, at Garvin. At the empty riverbed offering no real protection. We'll have to. She helped Holt sit down against the embankment. Garvin was already unconscious again. Maya finally got a good look at Holt's arm. The bullet had gone through the bicep, but it had nicked the brachial artery. Not a complete severing, but bad enough. He could bleed out in minutes if she didn't do something. This is going to hurt, she said. Everything already hurts. Maya worked fast. Pressure point, tourniquet. She cinched it tight. Holt's jaw clenched, but he didn't make a sound. That'll keep you alive, she said. But you're done. No more fighting. The hell I am. Sir, that's an order, Reeves. But his voice was weak. They both knew he couldn't hold a rifle even if he wanted to. The sound of engines grew louder, closer. Maya climbed up the embankment just enough to see. 4 vehicles, maybe 30 militants, spread out in a search pattern. They hadn't pinpointed the team's location yet, but they would. Soon. She slid back down beside Holt. 4 vehicles, 30-plus hostiles. 12 minutes until Exfil. Holt's head dropped back against the dirt. Those are bad odds. Yes, sir. You could leave us. Move faster on your own. Better chance of survival. Maya looked at him like he'd grown a second head. Not happening, sir. That's not bravery, Reeves. That's stupidity. If you stay, we all die. Then we all die. But I'm not leaving you. She checked her ammunition. 3 magazines left. 90 rounds. Against 30 men. Besides, you'd do the same for me. Holt met her eyes. For the first time, she saw something in them besides doubt or judgment. Respect. Yeah, he said quietly. I would. The vehicles were getting closer. Maya could hear voices now. Commands being shouted in Pashto. Stay with Garvin, she said. Keep pressure on your arm. Don't die. Where are you going? Maya checked her rifle one last time. To buy us 12 minutes. Reeves. But she was already moving. She climbed out of the riverbed and ran low and fast toward a rocky outcropping 50 meters away. Better position. Better angles. She could see all 4 vehicles from here. The militants spotted the movement. Gunfire erupted. Rounds kicked up dirt around her feet. But Maya made it to cover and dropped into position. 50 meters. It was suicide. She was too close. But close meant her shots would count. Close meant she could make every bullet matter. She aimed at the front tire of the lead vehicle and fired. The tire exploded. The truck swerved and crashed into a boulder. Men poured out, angry and disoriented. Maya started dropping them. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other vehicles scattered, their drivers realizing they were taking fire. But they also now knew exactly where she was. All 30 militants turned their attention on Maya's position. The world became thunder and fire. Bullets hammered the rocks around her. Chips of stone cut her face. Dust choked her lungs. But she kept firing, kept moving. Pop up, shoot, drop, roll, new position. Pop up, shoot, drop. She'd never felt so alive and so close to death at the same time. Reeves, Holt's voice on the radio. Fall back. There's too many. Not yet. That's an order. Respectfully, sir, she fired twice. 2 more militants down. I don't take orders from wounded men who can't back them up. Under any other circumstances, that would have been insubordination. Court-martial material. But she heard Holt laugh. Actually laugh. Rough and pained but real. You're insane, Reeves. Yes, sir. She dropped 3 more hostiles. But they were adapting, flanking, moving to surround her position. Maya checked her ammunition. 1 magazine left, 30 rounds, and at least 15 militants still moving. She keyed the radio. Exfil, what's your ETA? 7 minutes, 7 minutes. She had to hold for 7 more minutes. A grenade landed 3 feet from her position. Maya rolled away as it exploded. The blast wave picked her up and threw her like a doll. She hit the ground hard. Her rifle flew from her hands. Everything went silent except for the ringing in her ears. She tried to get up. Couldn't, her left leg wouldn't work right. She looked down and saw blood. Shrapnel. At least 3 pieces embedded in her thigh. Footsteps approaching. Boots on rock, she reached for her sidearm, drew it. Rolled onto her back. 4 militants stood over her, weapons pointed at her head. This was it. This was how it ended. She'd bought maybe 5 minutes. Not enough. Holt and Garvin would die in that riverbed, and it would be her fault for not being good enough, fast enough, strong enough. The lead militant said something in Pashto, laughing, mocking. Maya raised her pistol anyway. If she was going to die, she'd take at least one of them with her. The gunshot was deafening, but Maya didn't feel any pain, because the militant in front of her had just fallen, a hole in his chest. The other three spun around, confused, more gunshots. Two more militants dropped. The fourth one ran, and then Holt was there, rifle in his one good hand, his face gray with pain and effort. He'd tied his wounded arm to his chest and was somehow still fighting. He stumbled and almost fell. Maya caught him. "I thought I told you to stay with Garvin," she said. "I don't take orders from mouthy staff sergeants," Holt replied. Then he collapsed against her. They helped each other back to the riverbed. More like carried each other. Holt's legs were barely working. Maya's leg was on fire. They slid down the embankment and landed in a heap beside Garvin. "How many left?" Holt asked. "I don't know. Maybe 10? Maybe more. How much ammo?" "Almost none." Holt nodded. "We're in trouble." "Yes, sir." They sat there, bleeding, exhausted, listening to the militants regrouping, preparing for a final assault. Holt looked at Maya, really looked at her. "I was wrong about you." "Sir?" "Day one. I looked at you and saw someone who would get my men killed." He paused. "But you saved my life twice, and Hayes died for me because you inspired him, because you showed him what real courage looks like." Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. "Hayes died because I wasn't fast enough." "No, Hayes died because he was a soldier. Because he made a choice." Holt shifted, wincing. "You gave us a chance we shouldn't have had. You did the impossible. And I'm sorry I doubted you." Maya had waited 3 years to hear words like that. 3 years of proving herself. Fighting for respect, and now, bleeding out in a riverbed in Afghanistan, she finally had it. "Sir, if we survive this—" "When?" Holt interrupted. "When we survive this," Maya smiled despite everything. "When we survive this, I'm putting you in for a medal." "For what?" "Getting shot and being rescued by my staff sergeant?" "For having the guts to admit you were wrong." Holt laughed, then coughed, then laughed again. The radio crackled. "Ground team, exfil is 1 minute out." "Pop smoke." Maya grabbed a smoke grenade with shaking hands, pulled the pin, threw it as hard as she could. Purple smoke billowed into the sky, and then she heard it. The most beautiful sound in the world. Helicopter rotors. The Black Hawk came in fast and low, door gunners already firing. The remaining militants scattered under the aerial assault. The bird touched down for exactly 7 seconds. Maya grabbed Garvin. Holt grabbed Maya. They stumbled together toward the helicopter. Hands reached out to pull them aboard, and then they were up, rising, the ground falling away. The militants shrinking into the distance. They were safe. They were alive. Maya collapsed on the floor of the helicopter, her whole body shaking. Medics swarmed over her and Holt and Garvin. Through the chaos, she felt Holt's hand grip hers. She looked over. He was looking at her with those ice-blue eyes. But they weren't cold anymore. "You know what I'm going to tell them when we get back?" he said, his voice barely audible over the rotors. "What, sir?" "That you're the reason I'm alive." "The only reason?" He squeezed her hand. "And that I want you on my team, permanently, if you'll have us." Maya squeezed back. "Yes, sir." "And Reeves?" "Sir? Stop calling me sir. We're past that now." She smiled. "Yes, and Dennis," he smiled back. And then his eyes closed, exhaustion and blood loss finally taking him. But he kept holding her hand. All the way home. 6 months later, the ceremony was held at Fort Carson on a bright October morning. The kind of day where the mountains looked close enough to touch and the sky was impossibly blue. Captain Dennis Holt stood at attention in his dress uniform, his left arm still in a brace but healing well. Beside him stood Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves, her leg fully recovered. Her uniform decorated with a new ribbon, the Bronze Star with Valor device. The general was giving a speech about courage and sacrifice and devotion to duty. But Maya wasn't really listening. She was watching the crowd, seeing the faces of the people who doubted her, the instructors who said she wasn't strong enough, the officers who said she didn't belong. They were all clapping now. After the ceremony, Holt approached her. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Surreal," Maya admitted. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake." "You earned it?" Holt paused. "We deploy again in 3 months. New mission, high risk. I'm handpicking the team. And? And you're first on my list. If you want it, Maya looked at him. At this man who doubted her so completely and now trusted her with his life. I want it, she said. Holt held out his hand. Maya shook it. Then welcome to the team, Reeves. For real this time. As Maya walked back to her barracks that evening, she thought about Hayes. About his sacrifice. About how far she'd come. She'd spent her whole career trying to prove she belonged. But in that riverbed in Afghanistan, bleeding and afraid and holding the hand of a man who'd finally seen her for who she really was, she realized something. She'd always belonged. She just needed to find someone worth saving to prove it. And in saving Dennis Holt, she'd saved herself too. From doubt, from fear, from every voice that said she wasn't enough, she was enough, she always had been. And now, finally, everyone else knew it too.